Hello, my name is Jeremy, and this is the True Crime Chronicles channel. We secure our doors at night to protect against the malevolence from the external world, yet it's frightening to ponder what might occur if wickedness is concealed beneath the guise of a trusted companion. This tale recounts an instance of exceptionally harsh treachery by someone near. Jaimie Han was born on October 25, 1983. Growing up in Orangeburg, South Carolina, she lived with her two brothers and sister, Brett, Justin, and Ashley. Despite their parents' divorce and remarriage, Jaimie remained a cheerful child. She attended a small, renowned private prep school, celebrated for its educational excellence. In junior high, Jaimie visited the University of North Carolina with her classmates, and instantly fell in love with its beauty, aspiring to attend. Even as a student, she aimed to impact others' lives, joining the board of the Center of Hope to support troubled teens. She later engaged in various political campaigns, including Senator John Edwards' 2008 presidential run, a competitor to Obama. Jaimie emerged as a prominent figure in North Carolina's Democratic Party. During a campaign, she met Nation, forming a deep professional relationship. Post-campaign, their bond shifted from platonic to romantic. 4 months after their first romantic moment, they announced their engagement and married on April 18, 2009. Their intense love was anchored in a deep friendship. Jaimie and Nation were thriving in their respective careers. Jaimie ran her own political fundraising consulting firm, while Nation was a well-known online strategist, aiding politicians and nonprofits with their campaigns. Described by friends and acquaintances as exceptionally kind, tender, and generous, the couple was well regarded. They took their marriage vows to heart, actively participating in a project for the Coalition to Protect Young Families in North Carolina. Although childless, Jaimie and Nation planned on starting a family soon. They both enjoyed vibrant social lives. Jaimie was known among her friends and family as a compassionate, giving individual who had the ability to spread happiness. Her talent and enthusiasm for politics led many to foresee a promising future for her. However, in an unexpected turn of events, their seemingly perfect world suddenly fell apart. On April 22, 2013, around 5:20 p.m., Jaimie frantically ran from her house, sprinted a few dozen meters, and then collapsed, unconscious, in a neighbor's yard, her body drenched in blood. Onlookers on the street, shocked by the scene, shouted for someone to call 911. The neighbor who saw the turmoil unfolding in his yard immediately phoned emergency services. Through Jaimie's disoriented words, he gleaned that someone named John, who seemed to still be inside her house, had assaulted her with a knife. He hurriedly applied a towel to the numerous wounds on Jaimie's abdomen and urgently summoned an ambulance and the police. Arriving patrol officers traced the blood from the neighbor's yard back to the Hahn residence. Encircling the house, they commanded the individual inside to exit with hands raised. Moments later, a disheveled bald man emerged on the porch. The officers noted he bore wrist injuries and a stab wound in his abdomen. Owing to his injuries, this unidentified man was transported to the hospital in an ambulance, escorted by a police officer. En route, the wounded man grew distressed and tearful, expressing regret that this hadn't occurred sooner, and repeatedly murmured a desire to die. Following his medical treatment, the police endeavored to ascertain the identity of the man, his reasons for being in the Hahn's residence, and the circumstances leading to the tragic event. They soon discovered he was 31-year-old Jonathan Wayne Broyhill, a close friend of Nation and a guest in the couple's home. John was also familiar with Jaimie, who had employed him as an accountant in her political consulting firm after he relocated to North Carolina. The couple had generously offered him accommodation in their home, allowing him to stay until he was established enough to find his own place. Nation and John hailed from the same hometown and first crossed paths in 2000 during a church trip. Despite a 4-year age gap, they quickly struck up a friendship. As often happens with childhood friends, they drifted apart when one went off to college, but rekindled their bond post-graduation, becoming virtually inseparable. Jonathan even had the honor of being the best man at Nation and Jaimie's wedding in April 2009. The trio was akin to the Three Musketeers, living by the ethos of one for all and all for one. They shared vacations, regular Monday dinners, and celebrated holidays together. To some neighbors, Jonathan was virtually an extension of the Hahn family, given the extensive time he spent at their home. This deep, seemingly unbreakable bond makes the violent incident that left all three with stab wounds in their own home all the more perplexing and tragic. Every Monday, Jaimie and Nation would host their mutual friend Jonathan for dinner. On that particular day, Broyhill arrived earlier than usual with the intention of discussing recent campaign details with Jaimie. The friends were deeply concerned about John's well-being, as he had confided in them about his diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, a notably aggressive and often terminal disease. The Hahns, in their caring nature, accompanied Jonathan to his medical appointments and were consistently present, offering every possible support in his arduous battle for life. There was an instance when Jaimie, overwhelmed with emotion, asked Nation if they should consider having a child soon, so that their future offspring might have the chance to know Jonathan. Such was their affection and regard for their friend. They wished for even their yet-to-be-born child to have the opportunity to bond with him. The recent diagnosis of cancer was a harsh blow, but it wasn't the first health challenge Broyhill had encountered. Over the years, John had experienced multiple hospitalizations. He had once revealed to Nation that he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis during a gallbladder operation. Consequently, the Hahns invited Jonathan to live with them temporarily, offering care and support until his health improved. On that fateful Monday, Jaimie and John were already engaged in work-related discussions in the kitchen when Nation arrived home. Heading upstairs to change, Nation was startled by Jaimie's screams calling out his and then John's name. Assuming that Broyhill, given his medical condition, had fallen ill, Nation hurried downstairs. Midway, he was met with Jaimie's terror-stricken voice, crying out that someone was trying to stab her. Rushing into the kitchen, Nation was confronted with the horrifying sight of his wife on the floor, bleeding profusely, with John standing over her, wielding a large kitchen knife. As Broyhill turned and started advancing towards Nation, knife raised threateningly, Nation was frozen in disbelief. How could such a nightmare unfold in mere minutes? In a desperate act of self-defense, Nation grabbed the knife's blade with one hand, attempting to hold it at bay, while striking John in the face with his other hand. Amidst this chaos, he frantically urged Jaimie to run for safety, attempting to subdue a man who, until moments ago, was his closest friend. Despite her grave injuries, Jaimie miraculously managed to rise from the floor and flee through the side door of their home. Once she was out, Nation, overcoming the shock and tumult, pushed Jonathan aside and hurried after his wife. Outside, Jaimie desperately made her way to the nearest neighbor's house for help. Unfortunately, no one responded to her urgent knocking. Summoning her remaining strength, she attempted to reach the next house, but, overwhelmed by her injuries, she collapsed, unconscious, in their yard. Alerted by the commotion, passers-by quickly came to her assistance, while a neighbor, drawn by the screams, called for an ambulance and the police. Meanwhile, Nation, in a state of panic, searched frantically for Jaimie. Following the trail of blood, he discovered her in a neighbor's yard, conscious but in agony, clutching her side. Kneeling beside her, he took her hand, trying to reassure her with promises of recovery, future anniversaries, children, and vacations by the sea. As he spoke, tears streamed down his face. Clutching Jaimie's hand, Nation was overwhelmed by the thought of a life without her, unable to fathom the sudden turn their peaceful life had taken. As Nation and Jaimie awaited help, a neighbor swiftly brought a towel to press against Jaimie's bleeding abdomen. Tragically, the towel was soon drenched with blood. Another kind-hearted neighbor elevated Jaimie's legs onto a bag of leaves, trying to provide some comfort while the ambulance was en route. To the onlookers, the wait for medical assistance felt interminable, though it was only a matter of minutes. Jaimie's breathing became labored, a sign of her critical condition, but upon their arrival, the paramedics promptly administered life-saving efforts. Nation, having sustained serious cuts to his hand while grappling with the knife, was also in dire need of medical attention. Both he and Jaimie were rushed to the hospital. During the transport, Jaimie lost consciousness, and upon arrival, she was immediately taken for emergency surgery. Meanwhile, Nation, overwhelmed with concern for his wife and oblivious to his own pain, received stitches. He was in such shock that he repeatedly attempted to access the ICU, desperate for any news about Jaimie, but was denied entry. Seated anxiously on a hospital bed, Nation was haunted by the knowledge of Jaimie's condition. Over a dozen stab wounds, a severed artery, and severe liver damage. His only recourse in those agonizing moments was to hope and pray for her survival. By some miracle, Jaimie did survive the surgery. But tragically, this glimmer of hope was fleeting. She never regained consciousness, and 2 days after their harrowing ordeal, Jaimie succumbed to her injuries. The autopsy conducted on Jaimie disclosed a harrowing reality. She had sustained 24 stab wounds across various parts of her body, including her face, neck, back, hands, and forearms. However, the most lethal injuries were those inflicted on her abdomen and chest, which resulted in catastrophic damage to her lungs and liver. Meanwhile, Jonathan Broyhill, who had inflicted wounds upon himself, was hospitalized for 8 days to recover from his self-inflicted injuries. On Tuesday, April 30th, 2013, Broyhill, still in need of medical attention and with bandages on both wrists, was transported on a stretcher to the magistrate's office in Wake County. There, he was formally charged with first-degree murder in the case of Jaimie Han and assault with a deadly weapon on Jaimie Han. Due to the severity of the charges, he was held without bail and detained at the Central Prison in Raleigh. This facility was chosen specifically because it housed a hospital wing, ensuring that Broyhill would continue to receive the necessary medical treatment while in custody for his crimes. The tragic and sudden loss of Jaimie profoundly impacted many, leaving a lingering question. Why would someone she considered a best friend commit such a horrific act, robbing her of her future? In the wake of the tragedy, speculation swirled within the community about a substantial amount of money that had gone missing during the election campaign managed by Jaimie's team. Jonathan Broyhill, who had served as the accountant, officially ceased working for the company at the end of 2012. Despite this, he remained responsible for providing Jaimie with financial details and assisting in the preparation of financial reports. It was suspected that Jaimie might have discovered the missing funds, which totaled over $50,000, and confronted Jonathan about this discrepancy. This confrontation could have been the trigger for his violent outburst. On the day of the incident, April 22, 2013, Jaimie had invited Jonathan over for their regular Monday dinner and intended to discuss the company's financial issues. The exact sequence of events during Nation's brief absence remains unclear, but it is widely believed that Jaimie might have challenged John regarding the missing funds during this time. As time passed, Nation's physical wounds began to heal, but the emotional and psychological scars remained deep and unhealing. 6 months following this devastating event, Jaimie's family and Nation, her grieving husband, scattered her ashes near the Pulaski Memorial Baptist Church, a place where Jaimie had dedicated her time and efforts as a volunteer. In a poignant twist of fate, just a week before the tragedy, the Hahns had requested the church's pastor to pray for Jonathan, who they believed was battling cancer. Little did they know that soon, it would be they who needed the prayers of their community in the wake of such an unimaginable loss. Nation had to grapple with the truth that an individual he had known from childhood, whom he saw as his dearest friend, had completely shattered his life and, even more heartbreakingly, claimed the life of the woman he adored more than anything in the world. According to Nation, Jaimie was his anchor, his backbone, and his soulmate. He couldn't fathom how the sun could continue to glow without her. The trial of Broyhill commenced on March 4, 2015. The district attorney informed the jury that Jonathan, serving as Jenny's financial manager, had written 39 checks to himself, misappropriating around $50,000, the identical sum missing from the account. To rationalize his deeds, Broyhill claimed various health issues including brain impairment from multiple sclerosis, memory deficits, gallbladder operation, and pancreatic cancer. Compassionate Jaimie refrained from confronting John about such a sensitive matter during his challenging times. She tactfully sidestepped the issue, hoping Broyhill would identify and rectify the mistake. All seemed normal until she got a call from a debt collector. Then, the district attorney unveiled a startling truth. The preceding year, the defendant's first hospitalization occurred when he was admitted following the episode at the Hahn's residence. Prior to that, Jonathan hadn't sought any medical treatment, as his health records confirmed. All along, he had deceived Jaimie and Nation about his health conditions. No gallbladder operation, no multiple sclerosis, no cancer, merely a manifest mental disorder and something dreadful within. The search history revealed that the man had been seeking information on pancreatic cancer and specialists in this particular field, evidently to lend credibility to his falsehood. He also looked up cruises that could be taken without a passport. John had arranged a one-way journey to Las Vegas for April 23rd, but he canceled it on the 22nd, merely 2 hours before assaulting Jaimie with a knife. Jonathan admitted to the authorities that he had indeed misappropriated the campaign funds and fabricated all his medical conditions. When the Hahns escorted him to medical appointments, waiting in the car as devoted, caring friends, he merely roamed the hospital halls. In recent times, John grappled with depression and suicidal inclinations. He confessed to being tormented by voices urging him to harm others. He purchased the knife for himself, supposedly planning to use it in Las Vegas to end his life. Yet, he believed Jaimie would confront him about the financial irregularities, and when she did, he began to inflict wounds on himself. Jaimie attempted to intervene, but at that point, he was so deranged and furious that he started assaulting his friend impulsively. Jonathan recalled attacking Jaimie, but the chase of nation was wiped from his memory. His lawyer and Broyhill himself realized that fully dismissing the charges was unfeasible due to the overwhelming evidence of his guilt. Still, they aimed to argue for temporary insanity to lessen the sentence. Before the jury retired to deliberate, Jaimie Han was allowed to speak. With a voice filled with sorrow, he expressed, "We lock our doors at night to block out the world's evil, but it's chilling to think what occurs when evil holds the key." He addressed these words to his former best friend. On March 19, 2015, the jury announced their decision. They ruled Jonathan Broyhill guilty of first-degree murder of Jaimie Kirk Han and the attempted murder of Jaimie Han. The judge issued a life sentence without parole. Jaimie's intentions were utterly pure, and her death was so senseless that the criminal later acknowledged in an interview that if he had been honest with the Hahns, she would have forgiven him. Suddenly, the family's closest friend became their worst fear. This story defies any rational explanation. If you like this story, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Don't forget to like and share your opinion in the comments. This is Jeremy. See you in the next video.